Silence. After the fullness of the Passion story that we've heard, interspersed with the beautiful music shared by Kairos, it's quite noticeable, really. The silence. It reminds me of a scene from the film Jesus Christ Superstar, when Christ is dying on the cross and the sounds of the world around him and the music are getting louder and louder, and then suddenly it's silent. Even the sounds of the world around Jesus cut out before the music starts in again. Silence is what we're left with here on Good Friday after Jesus has died. Silence. Have you ever met one of those people who can't abide with even the briefest of quiet moments? They'll talk or suggest a plan, anything to avoid the quiet, the silence. My great-aunt Ruth was one of those people. Ruth also thought that the world was going to hell in a handbasket, and I guess all these many years later, I can say that it turned out that, unfortunately, she was right. At least with regards to this chapter of human history, of which we are currently co-sponsors, co-authors. We seem, at least in some ways, to be riding in a handbasket that, for me at least, doesn't seem nearly sturdy enough for the terrain at hand. Yep, and we're riding through some pretty hellish times in human history. And most of us are the lucky ones, at least for now. If I'm honest with myself, considering where and how we might have responsibility and co-authorship for at least some part, if not the entirety, of this chapter of messy and difficult human history, that might be even more scary than a moment or two of silence for me. Reverend Samuel Wells, rector of St. Martin's in the Field in London, writes that part of discipleship, that is, part of striving to follow in the way of and being transformed by the mercy and grace of the love of Jesus. Discipleship is, and I quote, recognizing that if we are not ourselves oppressed, the chances are we are unconsciously implicated in, or at least the beneficiaries of the process of oppressing, and we must decide whose side we are on. Maybe this chapter in the world's history is our Good Friday, when we must face the worst of what we as humanity can do to ourselves and to each other. That could be hard to sit with, in silence or in any other way. But the story does not end on Good Friday. The story does not end on Good Friday. And so even as we may be facing the worst of what we as humanity can do to ourselves and each other, we do not lose hope. For this night will end, this Good Friday, and a dawn will come that brings with it a loving reckoning, before which all knees will bow, and then shall the very gates of hell be burst asunder and new life begun. But for now, silence.